Welcome back to the Mid-Year YouTube channel. Today's episode, we're diving back into the Tribute Split. We have some firewall repairs to make. I have some custom patch panels to install, and I'm also going to give you guys some tips and tricks on how to install this brand new Dynamic Corvette Smooth Firewall kit to make your car into a Restomod. So be sure to stick around. So the glue's cured up on the door skin, so it's time to get all those clamps off, get this door closed, wrap that project up. And then I also started mocking up this firewall kit from Dynamic. They have two different versions. This is their second version, which gives you another little door that I have on the shelf for the wiper motor, and it has some more details in the firewall. I think this is a simpler kit to install. But just like all the Dynamic stuff, they leave you a little bit of extra material in places to work, so I need to do some trimming, some whittling down. We also need to get the plenums installed on both sides on the firewall, and we have some crash damage and stuff to fix because this firewall was made up of a couple different firewalls, and I need to do some patching on this side. But that's all stuff that can be done while this is on the chassis. I think I'd like to pull the body off of the chassis right now, and we need to fix all the stuff that the firewall smoothing kit is not going to cover. It covers the big heater hole, it helps blend in the plenums, and it helps fix some of the cracks that we have in the firewall, but we need to fix this down here. So I think I need to pull the body up so we can actually get in there and work. I made my fiberglass repairs on the firewall, scuffed them up, and I've been slowly trimming this smooth firewall down here just to get it to fit a little better, and we're getting close, So I started off by taking off all those extra lips that I showed you guys. I think this one was down here. I don't remember where this one came from, but I removed all these extra flanges, but you can see there's a lot of material that needed to be removed in some places. I just started by taking all that off, and then slowly whittling it away. Now, this side is pretty easy. There's not a lot going on here. There's a little bit of a flange on the firewall that sticks out around the heater box area. It sticks out maybe like an 1/8 inch. I ground all that down just to make sure this thing sits flush, and it looks like this radius gets close to this radius. I think it needs to move up just a hair more. So it looks like that's where the transition lies, and I have this smoothed up here pretty nice. Another area I need to work on is down here. There's a little bit of an interference. This area over here is a little more troublesome just because there's so many little angles and pockets that these two can get hung up on. You want these to nest like there are a couple of Tupperware containers that are the same, but you know, if you have two Tupperware containers that are a slightly different brand, or one got warped a little bit in the dishwasher, they don't quite fit together. And we're dealing with a hand-laid part, which could have some minor variances in its thickness and in the radiuses. Sometimes in these internal corners, I guess like this area, you could have a little extra buildup. So you have to be careful of that whenever you're working on it. And also the firewall underneath has been repaired, so some areas could be bulged out a little bit, or the radius might not be the same. So I just have to chase a couple things in here just to get this to sink in a little further. And I also put a little relief cut in here to make room for the dimmer switch, little bump out here. It'll be a little more like this whenever it's glued. But I went and cut that little hole. I could have cut it out of the floor, but I thought, well, The floor is already in nice shape. This is just more of a cosmetic thing, so that can easily be repaired over. Plus, it's going to need body work the whole way around this guy anyways, so I don't think that's a big deal. That was just a judgment call I made, but other than that, everything fits nice and tight in here, so I'm pretty happy with that. We have to work in this area a little more. So I finished all the major fiberglass repairs on the Firewall, and I glued on both driver and passenger plenums. And while they were off, I just decided to put on new #1 body mount brackets just because we had them, and may as well because we're here. So I also had to do some repairs on the top of the Firewall here. Did some splicing over there. In a previous video, I made those pieces. But right now, this is probably where you are starting to install your Firewall from Dynamic. So this is a pretty nice start. It's all roughed up with 36 grits, and I'm going to pull the clamps off, remove any little bits of flashing, and just get this glue scuffed up so we can get ready to fit this on. Now, Dynamic gives you this opening right here. They leave it closed off in case you don't want to use it, but this is for the wiper motor access. This goes right here, and if you use the Detroit Speed wiper motor, you can fit it through this opening just fine. And they also give you a little door, which I'll dig out and show you guys. But I talked to the owner. He wants to go ahead and cut this open. So I'm going to cut this out just because it's easier to get to right now while it's off the car. And then we'll mock the Firewall up in here. And this Firewall install should be pretty simple. It just glues directly onto this Firewall. We just have to figure out everywhere that it glues. And it's all held really sturdy in these areas just because it literally nests right over top of that. It contours to the whole Firewall. It's like two pieces of Tupperware that are designed to fit together, slide together. It fits nice and tight. Same with the passenger side. It just kind of lays right on top. But what I'm going to do is probably take a little bit of Fiberall and build this up into a transition into some of these areas so we get a nice glue seam here. But right up here, the top of the Firewall, which would be right in this area here, you can see that it would just be sitting here. And what I'm worried about is that this could flex without being glued properly. So what I'm going to do is once this is cut out, we'll be able to glue the Firewall in normally, and then we're going to take these extra pieces of fiberglass that are from Dynamic, from their fiberglass rockers. We're going to take these and we're going to make little bonding strips. I'll probably cut this in thirds maybe, or in half, and we'll take little segments of this and glue it to the underside of this area, and that'll give us a nice little flange right here for this to sit on. And if you don't have this piece of fiberglass, go find a piece of scrap. You could probably even use a piece of metal if you use the right glue, or you could just hand lay up a nice little piece. And I'm going to make little tabs. That way it'll give us something to hold this flat, to give us a nice shape. You know, whenever you come through here and you can put glue on this seam here, that'll hold it. But if you body work it and stuff, and you're gonna make this Firewall basically perfect under the hood, you don't want anything to happen. So we're just gonna do a little extra due diligence to make sure nothing moves. It's all really nice and solid. so we don't have any issues going forward. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all this cleaned up here. We'll do a couple more test fits of the firewall, do any final adjustments we have to, cut that hole out, and get ready to glue this thing in. So I put my fiberglass filler on the firewall just to kind of bring up some of the areas that were just a little bit low between the transition, between the plenum, the firewall, the upper firewall, and the plenum. And like I said, we are missing a little bit of this plenum, so I just built that up with fiberglass. We just need something good to bite into. And again, this isn't body worked out, you know, to 180 or 360. It's not all looking perfect. It's roughed in with 36 grit to give us something to bite into. I added a little bit here to help close this in, to give us a little tighter bond there. And then I filled in this little bit of a transition that was between the plenum and the firewall. Again, it's not perfect, it's not perfectly flat, but it's enough that it'll help bridge the gap and give our glue something better to bite into. I also cut out this hole in the firewall, and Dynamic gives you this little door, which I'm pretty sure they just want you to screw it on, but I left him a little bit of a flange around here in case he wants to recess this in or whatever he wants to do. So he's got some options. But now this will allow me to get access to reach in and put on my bonding strip onto the back here, and that'll help tie all this together. So I'm gonna get all this cleaned up, we get some glue on it and get her clamped up. So I have the Dynamic Smooth Firewall installed, and I used a lot of these big bar clamps and just pushed off of the Roadster Shop chassis just to kind of push it on. Overall though, it fit up really nice. It's probably one of the easiest parts I've glued on. I used a lot of glue just because I don't want this thing to vibrate or crack. I want to make sure it's installed really well and that all the body work he does on top of this will be good as well. So you can see it lays out nice, and then I have 3 pieces of little angled fiberglass, and they're acting as a bonding strip to keep this from flexing. So that's a nice solid bond, and I came in there and put some glue in that gap so it's all nice and tight. And yeah, it's a nice repair. So once he gets it, he can figure out exactly what he wants to do with this little door. But that'll be a future problem for him. But overall, it fits up real nice, and that's going to wrap it up for this portion of the car. That's basically the cowl back is done on this car. Now on the next video, we're going to focus on the front end that's up there. I have a dynamic wide front end up there with the gills. Back here I have the custom dynamic inner fenders as well as their engine dress-up kit. So they offer 2 versions of this. Version 2 I think is a little easier to install. If you didn't have to do all these fiberglass, you know, firewall repairs, you could probably do this in a day or 2 to get it to fit up, maybe even a day just to get it to fit up. I used 3 or 4 tubes of glue. Like I said, I used a generous amount of glue, and I traced out these openings here for the heater so I wouldn't put glue where there was nothing there. So I did trace all that ahead of time. But they sell this as a kit, this part with the custom inner fenders and the smooth kit that goes from the inner fender out to the firewall. So we'll be installing all that in the next couple weeks. It's probably going to take 2 weeks or so just to get all that stuff installed, figure out how it all works, and get it to fit nice. So in the next week's video, I have another surprise for you guys that's sitting out there that I think you guys are going to enjoy. But it'll be probably about 2 weeks till you see the front end on this thing, because it's probably going to take a minute. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I have a lot of work to do, so I'll catch you guys later. it.